Ladies and gentlemen, today I have a simple request. Please sell your NFTs on your website. Now, we know that that's a controversial idea. A lot of people are really against it, but it just makes sense to sell through your website. Just ask yourself this: if you're selling car wax and you can sell it on Amazon or you can sell it on your website or both, why wouldn't you do both? Because on Amazon, you don't own the customer. You don't get to control the email address. You don't get to send them advertisements through that email address or through Facebook or whatever. But on your website, you do. So why wouldn't you want to do that? So today, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to consider if you're going to start selling your NFTs on your website. And I'm going to show you how to build your own NFT site. My name is Trent Kennelly. I'm a marketing strategist. And on this channel, I talk about all the things that you can do to improve your business through marketing, sales, and analytics. So that sounds good to you and you're excited. Make sure that you like this video. Subscribe to my channel if you're into it. Comment and let me know what you're doing with your website right now to sell those NFTs. If it's nothing, that's okay. Hopefully I'm going to convince you in this video, and let's get started. All right, let's talk about the first things that we need to consider before we can even build this site out. And the first big one is the goal, because before we can even start to build, we need to understand why we're building. What is the goal for the site? There are essentially two possibilities here. You want the user to go to wherever you've minted your NFT, OpenSea, Rarible, that sort of thing, or you want them to buy through the site. So that would be that you've minted in such a way that they can buy directly through your site. Now, we're gonna get to the minting part of this in just a minute, but this idea, whether you're sending them away or keeping them in, is really the linchpin for your entire website strategy. There are certain considerations when you're trying to build a site that sells NFTs more directly that are a bit more intense, a bit more involved than they are if you're just sending them to OpenSea. And effectively, that comes down to how are we re-engaging people? And if you're just sending them to OpenSea or Rarible, you don't really have a way to re-engage them and bring them back into the fold through your site. If, however, you're selling through your site, you have ways of putting in lead magnets or retargeting or whatever. We'll get into all the details of that in a little bit, but those sorts of things allow you to more directly market and remarket to people who have already come to your site and who haven't purchased anything through your site yet. So just to play this out a little more thoroughly, let's do a quick side-by-side of these two possibilities. So let's just say you're sending directly to OpenSea. You're sending every visitor who comes, they click a button, they go to OpenSea. You immediately lose track of what their next action is. Did they look at your collection, one piece of your collection, and then go to another piece of your collection? Did they look at one piece of your collection and then go to somebody else's collection? Did they look at your collection and then decide they don't even want to be on OpenSea anymore and then they leave? All of these things are possibilities and more, but you have no idea what's happening because you don't have access to those analytics on OpenSea. So when you're sending them there, you lose all that visibility. Whereas if they're on your site and they're fishing through your site, they're looking at different pieces of art, they're stuck to your art and your collection. They're stuck to you as the designer. So there's no possibility, unless they exit, of them going to some other designer. You can also track exactly what's happening. You can know where they are at any time. So you can know that they went from the home page to your collections page to one specific collection to one specific piece, and they looked at it and then they exited from there, or whatever happens. Okay, you have a lot more detail about where they're going and what they're doing. Plus, you can pull them back in the fold. So you can give them something like a lead magnet. Again, we're going to get into that in a minute, that pulls them back in and allows you to continue to re-engage them. So it's really in your interest to sell on your site as much as possible. Again, I am not saying that you should not sell through OpenSea or Rarible. You can check out this video for details on that. I just find that it makes sense to promote sources that you control as much as possible. Whatever control that you can have allows you to take more actions on the back end, okay? So that all said, since this is a video about NFT websites, we're going to assume that you want to sell through your website from this point forward so we can get all the details we need here. The next thing we want to understand is how this is different from traditional sales pages, because yes, this is still a sales page, but there's a different level of complication with NFT websites versus other sales pages, because you aren't just any old business, you are selling art, right? And people who like to buy art in some capacity want to feel the impact of that art on the webpage itself. Seriously, go to any art museum page or any artist's page and you're gonna see that they are trying to display the impact of their art on those pages. It really kind of looks different than any other sales page, but it's still a sales page in some level, okay? So when we get to the site build out in just a minute, you're gonna see that even though the elements are there are a lot of elements that need to be in a web page to be effective. They can be played with, they can be used differently to get people to take the actions that you want and have them have that feeling and that brand that you want them to feel when you put your art collection online. Next, let's talk branding. So a big question here is whether you plan to build for the specific drop you want, or if you want to build your brand more generally here. So there are benefits to both approaches. I'm not necessarily saying one is worse than the other. If you decide to focus only on this drop, you have the advantage of potentially finding a domain name that's closely related to the name of your collection. So you can just say, this is the zombies, and here's the zombies. I don't know if that's a collection, I just made it up. You can also draw the focus of visitors to that specific collection that they came here for. So you don't have to worry about them going to some other page. Now, the big downside here is that you may not be able to cross-influence users to other collections that you might have as easily, which means that this style of website is doing less to build your overall artist profile, your overall brand, which is of course a big factor leading to price increases in your NFT collection. If you decide to focus on your overall brand, you can add all the new drops to the same domain, which is a huge advantage. And this makes it a lot easier for people to focus on you and your offerings, all of them, without getting distracted for other offerings on other artists' pages or whatever. But jumping between your different collections can also be okay, as long as they're gonna buy from you, right? It also gives them a central place to come back if they wanna look at your art again. They don't have to go between a bunch of different domains to find the collection that they're looking for. The next thing we need to figure out is which builder and platform. So this is something you always need to figure out when you're building a web page. You need to figure out what you're gonna build with, WordPress or Squarespace or Wix or whatever, and how you're gonna go about doing that. But this has a special significance with NFTs because certain builders have more flexibility that allow for that NFT marketplace to be built out on their sites, and others just don't, okay? For NFTs, the top two platforms right now are WordPress with WooCommerce and Shopify. Now, Shopify's setup is only in beta right now, but it's looking pretty strong. They've done a lot of sales through it. So if you're a Shopify user, I'd really suggest taking a look at that first. Next, let's talk about minting. So this is a huge thing that needs to be considered before you can decide on the website build out itself, because again, if you decide to mint on a blockchain like Ethereum, then you're effectively just sending your users to your gallery on OpenSea, which is fine. Again, there's no problem with it. But if you want to sell directly through your site, you need to use something like Tatum, which is a plugin for WooCommerce. So it's a plugin for your plugin that you can then use to sell on your own site. And it transfers afterwards when someone purchases it to whatever blockchain the purchaser wants at that point. It allows a lot of flexibility. It's really cool. So Tatum is, as it sounds, a blockchain system for you to display and sell those NFTs on your site directly, and it's really a cool tool. It's a paid subscription service, but ultimately worth it. Okay, finally, we are at building out the site, and the first thing I want to talk about here is the structure of the page. So again, there is room here to be a little bit different than a traditional design because we're being a little artistic here. So you can check out this video if you want information on traditional design and kind of how those pages are built, but it's still very important to have certain elements in certain places on the page. So I want to go through those elements with you here. The first section is the header section. So the header section is the first thing that anybody who comes to your site is going to see. This section is all about fast info. You want to tell them what you're offering and why they should care. Then you get them to take another action. So you have a maximum of 3 lines and a button here. One is your big headline with your big thesis about what big thing you want them to know. It can be funny, it can be informational, whatever. The next 2 are your subheadline. These are optional and they describe you, your business, your offer, whatever, just a little bit more. Then you need to add that button, also known as a call to action or a CTA below that, that is a way for them to take the next action. So whatever that action is, go buy something, go read more, go look at my blog, whatever that is. The point of this section is to get them to take some action, be that scroll down to read more, get more information, or to click and go buy an NFT. Those are the 2 goals here. Next is a section of deeper information. So on a traditional page, you might be looking in this part at dancing columns. That's what I call them. So it's interchanging columns of images and text. So you'll see image on the left and text on the right, followed by image on the right and text on the left, and then reverse it again. It just flips. And the idea here is that you're providing more information and you're telling people more about why they should care. You're trying to show them all of the reasons that they want to buy from your collection. So in this case, you would be talking about value over time, projected increases, what makes your project unique, etc. I mean, what you're doing here is you're going back to those 4 elements of NFT valuation, and you're speaking to why each one of them works in the buyer's favor in this case. Now, if you want a refresher on the NFT valuation points, you can check out this video, it goes through them in a lot of detail. The next vital section to have is an about section. So remember, NFTs are a lot about who the artist or creator is. So you need to show that you as the artist or creator have been around for a while, or that you have some other value add. It doesn't have to be that you're a well-known artist in your field. So for instance, Gary Vee has a collection that allows its owners to have a periodic call with him as just part of the deal of purchasing the NFT. So maybe the collection itself isn't created by some great artist, but the value that Gary brings in this situation is different. And that's what the value is. That's what increases the value of his NFTs. So that's what you would want to talk about in that situation. And then finally, and very simply, because community is an important element of selling your NFT collection, you need to have socials that the visitors can access so that you can start to build that community out. I would say at a very minimum, you need to have a Discord and a Twitter here. A couple other things that we need to think about that aren't just about the design of the page itself. Let's talk about calls to action, or CTAs. So there should never be an area on your page where someone doesn't have a call to action. And I want to be really clear here. I am not just talking about slapping a CTA up in the menu bar and assuming that that's good enough and that you make that menu bar sticky and that everybody will always see the possibility. That's not really good enough, because let's think about line of sight. When you're looking at a page, you're not always looking up at the menu bar. And if something is not directly in front of you, willing you to take that action, you're not going to take that action. People are subconsciously looking for reasons to leave your page at all times. And you don't want to make it easy for them, so put the button in their face, okay? Don't make it crazy and annoying, but do have a button everywhere on the page so that someone can take an action at any time. Next, you need to make sure that you design mobile first, meaning have a mobile first mindset, because the vast majority of website visits nowadays are mobile. I'm talking about 60 or 70% of all website visits are mobile. But this is still a big missed opportunity for a lot of website builds. You're using a website builder like Elementor probably, or even something on Shopify. They all allow you to easily click a button and look at desktop view, tablet view, and mobile view. So there is no reason not to do this. It's especially important on an NFT site like this, where we're talking about a little bit more of an artistic view, because these artistic views don't adapt well to different screen sizes. So you actually need to design for a bigger screen, a medium screen, and a smaller screen. That's the only way that it's gonna look good at all, okay? Very, very important. So the final big consideration here is outreach. So this is one of the big reasons that you wanna be selling on your website. You wanna make sure that you have some way to reach out to people after they've left your site. Now, I would typically suggest here that you have an exit pop-up with a lead magnet. That's usually the best option. You can check out this video for lots of details on how to build out an exit pop-up and what that's good for, etc. But the idea here is that you have something free to give away, like an ebook or something, and in exchange for giving them that free ebook, they give you their email address, okay? So that way you can send them emails and directly market to those visitors, etc. You can do remarketing. We'll get to Facebook ads just a second here. But it's also very important, I want to point out, when you do a lead magnet like this, that you have a double opt-in setup for that process. So you can check out this video for details on how to set up a double opt-in process. And then the last great outreach method is Facebook ads. So all you have to do to set up Facebook ads is get a Facebook pixel code. So that's just a little piece of code that you copy off their site and you slap it onto your site, and it allows Facebook to track your users. Now, obviously that's a controversial topic, and it has gotten harder to track users since iOS 14 came out, with iOS 14 and Apple and Google limiting the reach of the data mining tools that Facebook has. You can check out this video for details on that. But in any case, it's still something that you should look at, especially if you've received buy-in through that lead magnet, because you've got those emails. You can upload those emails to Facebook and you can say, hey, advertise to these specific people, please. There you go. That should help you to build an amazing NFT website. I hope that that was helpful for you. As always, please feel free to drop your collection in the comments. It's always good to market it anywhere you can. Let me know how you feel about this website build out, if you've done anything differently with your own website or what you're trying to figure out about the configuration or whatever. I would love to be able to help you. Just shoot me a comment down below. Otherwise, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, and I will catch you in the next one.